Good morning. The September 17, 2025 meeting of the Board of Estimates is now called to order. The board continues to meet in a hybrid format. For those here in person, please take a moment to silence your cell phones and other electronic devices. For those attending virtually, if you desire an opportunity to speak, we ask that you please keep yourself on mute until the chair recognizes you. When you are called upon, please announce your name, organization, and speak loudly and clearly as you present. I would ask our clerk, Celeste Amato, for any corrections, additions, and noted abstentions for today's meeting.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning, everyone. We have the following corrections to note this morning, and I do want to preface the first few. These are all third-party travels, and we had a little clerk error where I need to put in the correct dollar amount for these items. So for SB 2513168, this is a travel request for the Honorable Zeke Cohen. This is a third-party funded travel for $2,811.31. SB 2513172 for the Baltimore Police Department. This is a travel request for Jennifer Morgan, and we need to strike $0 and insert $987. For SB 2513294, this is a travel request for Selenia Gibson, and we are striking 0 and inserting $1,292.20. And finally, SB 2513192, this is also a travel request for Joseph Mulhausen, and we are striking 0 and inserting $1,502.96. And again, those are third-party funded travels. We also have one additional correction, SB 2512678 for the Bureau of Procurement. This is a renewal of SCON 001808, supply and delivery of lumber to various agencies. For the secondary agency, we are striking Recreation and Parks and inserting Department of General Services. We have no walk-ons to share this morning. We do have two deferrals, SB 2513002 for the Bureau of Procurement, Award RFQ 000652 Janitorial Services, Groups 1 through 3. This item is deferred until October 15th, 2025 at the request of the agency. And SB 2511364, Department of Public Works, partial release of retainage for Metra Industries, Inc. This item has been deferred until October 1st, 2025 at the request of the agency. We have one item being withdrawn from the agenda this morning. That is SB 2512807 for the Bureau of Procurement. This is a selected source award, RFQ 040069, City Watch CCTV Maintenance Support and Expansion Agreement for $13,040,000. This item has been withdrawn at the request of the agency. We have no protests or other statements to note this morning. And the following items will be heard as part of the non-routine agenda. SB 2513214. This is for BBMR to create administrative manual updates 413-51, grant subrecipient monitoring and management. And SB 2513213 for BBMR, creating administrative manual updates for 413-21, federal grants registration and unique entity identifiers. SB 2512601 for the Department of General Services and emergency procurement for drain cleaning services for $551,000. SB 2512752 for the Department of Human Resources personnel, Mayor's Office of Overdose Response position creation for $161,465. And SB 2512472 Bureau of Procurement unauthorized procurement for dredge boats for $198,600. And lastly, SB 2512910, Bureau of Procurement. This is a renewal for SCON 002177, Armed Security Guard Services, an agreement for $5,500,000. We have the following abstentions to note this morning. The Honorable Mayor Brandon M. Scott is abstaining on SB 2513060, Health Department Provider Agreement, Johns Hopkins University, and SB 2513052, Health Department Provider Agreement, Johns Hopkins University Department of Gynecology and Obstetrics. CAO Faith Leach has no abstentions to note this morning. The Honorable President Zeke Cohen has no abstentions to note this morning. The Honorable Comptroller Bill Henry is abstaining on all travel requests and travel reimbursements. City Solicitor Ebony Thompson has no abstentions to note this morning. And the Deputy Director of Public Works, Alan Robinson, has no abstentions to note this morning. We also have no, I'm sorry?
The council president reflected his abstaining on his own travel.
Apologies for that. I think that was on us. Please note the council president as abstaining on the travel reimbursement.
So noted.
Thank you.
And we have no votes to acknowledge for the routine agenda this morning. And Mr. President, that concludes our opening statement. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. At this time, I ask for a motion to approve and adopt the opening statement as read by the clerk.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. The opening statement has been adopted. I now direct the board members' attention to the memorandum from my office dated September 17th, 2027, identifying matters to be considered as routine agenda items, together with any corrections, additions, abstentions, and no votes that have been noted by the clerk. I will entertain a motion to approve all the items contained on the routine agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor of approving the items on the routine agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. The routine agenda items have been adopted. Seeing no further questions, we will now move to the non-routine agenda. The first two items on the non-routine agenda are subsequently similar, so I will call them together for one discussion and call each for their individual vote at conclusion. These items are requested from the Bureau of Budget and Management Research to approve revisions to the administrative manual to improve compliance with federal rules on grant subrecipient monitoring. These items are SB 2513214, create AM 413-51, grant subrecipient monitoring and management, SB 25-13213, create AM 413-21, federal grant registration and unique entity identifier. On behalf of BBMR, we have Grants Director Ashley Meyer, as well as Director Laura Larson. Thank you both for being here. The floor is yours.
Good morning, Council President, Mr. Comptroller, members of the Honorable Board. My name is Laura Larson. I'm the city's budget director, joined by Ashley Meyer, who's the director of our Grants Management Office. We are here today to propose two new rules that will be added to the city's administrative manual. BBMR is bringing these items forward because we are charged as the owners of the administrative manual for the organization. In this role, we collaborate with agencies who have oversight of individual rules to ensure that they are current and reflect current operating procedures. We are currently doing a review of policies within the administrative manual to identify those that are outdated and need updated, as well as gaps within the existing policies. Today, the Grants Management Office is bringing forward two new rules that address two gaps within our existing grants management policies. I'll now turn it over to Ashley Meyer, who will walk us through those modifications.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you, members of the board. Can you hear me? Okay,
Yes.
good. All right. I do have a short presentation. If I am getting long-winded, just feel free to cut me off. Before we talk about the policy specifically, I think it's important to just define a few key terms because these policies are written to address some of these key terms for the benefit of those that may be watching elsewhere. First, 2 CFR 200, the Federal Uniform Guidance. That is the comprehensive set of rules and regulations established by the Office of Management and Budget for federal grant administration and management. So we are bound to those rules whenever we accept federal funds. The unique entity identifier is a unique number that's assigned to businesses and organizations that you must register with the federal government and obtain a UEI for accepting any federal awards. And this replaces the DUNS number. It's a required number. You must have one if you are getting federal funds. Then finally, the System for Award Management, or known colloquially as SAM.gov. That's the official government website that centralizes all the federal procurements. It's a centralized registration system for any entity seeking federal funds, and it also verifies your eligibility to receive those funds. So all three of these things are required anytime you want to receive a federal grant. And then just really quickly to walk through how we developed and prepared these policies. I started with the city a year ago, and in that time, my team, the Grants Management Office and the Department of Finance, we've undertaken several different actions in collaboration with the other agencies that receive grants to make sure that we are putting together policies that address what we need to address. So we did hold a unique entity identifier working group last fall to talk about how we use the UEI internally in the city to evaluate how we are tracking UEIs for all of our federal subrecipients. And then based on that working group, we worked to develop the UEI policy. We did conduct a citywide grants needs assessment last fall so that we could sort of catalog and identify all the various grants issues across the city. We provided 5 separate subrecipient monitoring trainings to all citywide grant receiving agencies since last year. We've also provided a bunch of subrecipient monitoring templates such as reporting documents, risk assessment templates, and things like that. All of these have been presented to the city agencies and entities, and they are available on our centralized SharePoint site. We also, when we drafted these policies, we did post these on our SharePoint management site. All of the city grant agencies have access to it. They were posted there for review and comment for about 6 weeks. We did get some feedback from different agencies and incorporated that feedback into the drafts of the policies. And then most importantly, these policies are written to address the process improvements that we outline in our corrective action plans for our federal external audit every year. We do have audit findings related to subrecipient monitoring and to our use of the UEI, so these policies address what we have outlined in our corrective action plans. So to talk about the key provisions in the subrecipient monitoring and management policy, we start off by making sure that we are specifying what the federal uniform guidance is regarding federal subrecipient evaluation, monitoring, documentation. This is basically to make sure that the city as a whole is in compliance with the federal uniform guidance. We require the city entities who are subawarding their federal funds to verify their subrecipients have a UEI, that they are in good standing with the State Department of Assessments and Taxation. They're in good standing and not on an exclusion list with SAM.gov. And this is not something that was previously consistently done across the city, so now we standardize it. And then we go through the official approval process within the city for approving all subawards, which includes all of the data that is required in the federal subaward grant agreements, such as your assistance listing number, your UEI, your federal award identification number. We go through the process of having law review the grant agreements, taking them to the small business office, and then finally the board approval. Again, this was not something that was consistently widely done and inconsistently practiced, so we are standardizing it. And then we also require all city entities to conduct an initial risk assessment for all of their subrecipients and then develop a monitoring plan based on the risk results. So this is a federal requirement. If you are subawarding federal funds, you must conduct a risk assessment and develop a monitoring plan. Again, we were not consistent as a city as a whole. There are agencies that do this, but there are some maybe who do not do it as well or as often. And then we also require the agencies to specify the results of the risk assessment and the monitoring plan with their subrecipient to ensure that the subrecipient knows what is expected of them and that it's all been discussed and agreed upon beforehand. And then we require the city entities to actually review their subrecipient monitoring, their reporting, all of their metrics in a manner and cadence that's consistent with the monitoring plan. We also direct the city subrecipients to maintain their accurate and timely record keeping for the federal awards that they're getting from the city. We also codify and standardize what the subrecipient monitoring practice is going to look like across the city, and this policy supersedes any individual agency SOPs. And then this policy really was written because it addresses that historic lack of consistency across the city. These federal requirements are things that we are meant to do across the city with federal funds, full stop, and it's just not something that was widely done or consistently done. There are many agencies that do adhere to these things, and this is just an assurance that we are now all following the federal uniform guidance and making sure that we are doing what we are meant to be doing. Switching over to the federal grants registration and UEI policy, this policy specifies, again, that the federal uniform guidance regulations require a UEI for all entities who are recipients and subrecipients of a federal award, so the City of Baltimore as well as all of our subrecipients. It requires us to verify all of our subrecipients have a UEI. It requires us to go and check that they are not on the SAM.gov exclusion list. And this is something that, again, was not previously consistently done across the city, but is a federal requirement. It also talks about the city's own UEI policy, so it confirms that all Baltimore entities applying for federal funds must use one consistent UEI. Some agencies have their own, some do not, and while we work to determine if we want to go one UEI for the city or have every agency use their own, we want to make sure that for the time being, all agencies are running their UEI usage through the Grants Management Office. It also directs the agencies to collaborate with my office, the Grants Management Office, to maintain their annual UEI registration to make sure that it doesn't lapse. These are things that historically have not been centralized, and so now we are just working to standardize and make sure that they are all centralized going forward. And I'll now take any questions.
I want to commend the administration for making these changes and being responsive to findings from the audits process. Thank you, Director Meyer and Director Larson and the team. This will help protect the city and improve our grant process and keep us away from any risk related to the feds. So appreciate you taking it very seriously.
Thank you.
Board? All right.
I can make a humorous comment, but nothing substantive.
A little levity never hurt.
I just want to say, I want to add my thanks and also say during your presentation, which I had a chance to preview, and I appreciated that, I was looking around the room and I was watching all the people whose eyes were glazing over as you were going through this, and I wanted to just call to their attention. Ashley works with this all the time. And this is an excellent example of the finance department getting in there and doing the stuff that no one else wants to be doing so that the rest of us can be doing the stuff we like to be doing more effectively and more openly and transparently for the people. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Comptroller Henry, and thank you, Director Meyer. Any additional questions? Seeing and hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve this item,
So moved.
or I'm sorry, these items separately.
Oh, yeah. Are you going to call them separately?
Yep.
Okay.
Do I have a motion for SB 2513214 BBMR, create AM 413-51, grant recipient, monitoring and management, $0?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor of approving this item say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The item is approved. Do I have a motion for SB 2513213, BBMR, administrative manual revisions, $0?
Motion to approve.
All those in favor of approving, I'm sorry, I need a second.
Second.
All those in favor of approving this item say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The item is approved. The next item on the non-routine agenda is SB 2512601. This is a request from the Department of General Services to note the extension of an emergency procurement with EGA Enterprises LLC for draining. Please feel free to introduce yourself on behalf of DGS.
My name is King Bennett with DGS. We're here today, well, good morning, Controller, Council President, and board members.
Morning.
We're here today introducing this item, emergency procurement, EGA Enterprises, which is a drain cleaning service that the city uses for various locations. This is a $551,000 increase and a one-year extension from June 1st, 2025 through May 31st, 2026. This is a stopgap which will allow us to continue services throughout the city. As we know, drain cleaning is important. Not only does DGS use it in various locations, including City Hall and our police districts, but also fire stations and rec and parks use it uses it quite often in their rec centers. And so this stopgap services will make sure that we can continue to provide that service, which is important for the safety of those who visit, staff as well as those who visit. And so we not only are asking for this extension, but it is not the long term. The long term is being worked on with a cooperative contract, which should be in place well before the year is over, at which time we will stop and convert over, which is a 3-year with 2 1-year extensions as options. Any questions?
Questions from the board? Seeing and hearing none, this item is noted. Thank you. The next item on the non-routine agenda is SB 2512752, a position creation in the Mayor's Office of Overdose Response. This position will be responsible for carrying out the mayor's executive order on opioid restitution funds and ensuring Baltimore's compliance with paragraph 97 of the consent decree for the Baltimore Police Department. On behalf of the Mayor's Office of Overdose Response, we have Executive Director of Overdose Response, Sarah Whaley. Director Whaley, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Good morning, Council President, Comptroller, and honorable board members. I'm Sarah Whaley, the Executive Director of the Baltimore City Mayor's Office of Overdose Response. This item this morning relates to a new position in the BC Moore office, the Behavioral Health Quality Assurance and Quality Improvement Program Manager. This position is very specific to the work of paragraph 97 of the consent decree. Paragraph 97 of Baltimore's consent decree requires that the city identify gaps in its behavioral health service systems, recommend and implement solutions through collaboration with stakeholders, and ultimately transform the systems to better meet community needs for individuals with behavioral health issues. The role of QA/QI program manager will work to develop and implement a multi-agency quality assurance, quality improvement process that has been laid out very specifically in paragraph 97's agreement, outlined in the implementation plan, and approved by the monitoring team. This role identifies gaps and obstacles, reducing police involvement in behavioral health crises, identifies opportunities to redirect individuals in crisis to more appropriate behavioral health care, and regularly evaluate data from 911 and 988 calls, on-scene referrals, Baltimore Police Department contacts, mobile crisis runs, and community-based programs. This role would conduct a semi-annual random audit of behavioral health CAD incidents and crisis-related calls, and would use the findings of all of these activities to share system-wide trends and inform implementation work of the Behavioral Health Collaborative. The Mayor's Office plays a really important role in the multi-agency collaboration of the consent decree work. Paragraph 97 implementation includes multi-agency initiatives and partnerships, including the 911 diversion efforts, which is a coordination between Baltimore Police Department and the Baltimore City Fire Department, and in collaboration with community partners and Behavioral Health Systems Baltimore. This work is well aligned with the BC Moore office because we are also working for multi-agency collaborations around the overdose response, and several of the components of the paragraph 97 consent decree work are in our overdose response strategic plan. This position is not duplicative of any currently existing positions or planned positions in the new Division of Behavioral Health in the Health Department. However, this position would work really closely with other agencies, including the new division in the Health Department, but is very specific to paragraph 97 and the work outlined there. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Director Whaley, and appreciate your leadership on our overdose response. I'm going to press on that last point that you made. We just held a hearing. You were there talking about our crisis response and just the muddle and fragmentation that exists within the space. While fully supportive of this position, do want to understand, you said that it will not be duplicative of anything within the Office of Behavioral Health. Help me get there in terms of where this position starts versus that other division. How will we ensure that it is not overlapping, and how will we make sure that there is a direct collaborative relationship and yet still clear lines of accountability?
Yeah, so the work of paragraph 97 in the consent decree has lived within the mayor's office for some time now. And so there is
Do you
already.
mind just pulling the mic a little
Yeah,
closer?
sorry, I am soft-spoken.
That's okay.
The work of paragraph 97 has lived within the mayor's office for some time now, and there is already a program manager that's leading that work. So this is a complementary position to that kind of coordinator position and is specific to the QA/QI work. The new division in the health department, I'm not going to speak a lot to that because that is really.
Could you just for the audience, could you
Yeah.
define QA/QI work?
Quality assurance, quality improvement. So they're really looking at how the systems are working. The new division in the health department is, we've looked at what the health department has proposed, and there's no duplicative positions. The consent decree work, while they are involved in that, related to the programs and services that they provide and oversee, but there's not consent decree work within the new division or existing already in the health department.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that this would specifically respond to a concern enumerated in paragraph 97 of the consent decree and would not bump into other work being done. Could you further elaborate on how, again, the line I'm trying to draw in my head is, I think we have this challenge in this space generally with a lot of partners, a lot of really great nonprofit organizations, agencies, folks doing this work and often working extremely hard, but a lack of coordination, a lack of sort of top-end accountability, just trying to understand, and I appreciate the comment about how this is sort of directly related to what paragraph 97 asks of us, but help me understand where this starts, where the behavioral health division ends, and just kind of how those two will be in concert with each other.
I'm happy to take that.
I see City Administrator Leach.
Yes, I'm happy to take that. And I'm also want to take the opportunity to push on this point about there being muddle or confusion in the city's behavioral health system. So I don't see this as there being muddle. It's very similar to the city CVI system. So you have the behavioral health systems of Baltimore. They serve as the behavioral health entity by the state of Maryland that is responsible for behavioral health within the city of Baltimore. Their board is chaired by the health commissioner. That has been standard within the city for several years. Now, where all of this connects is we see an opportunity within the health department to build our own muscle and internal capacity around behavioral health. A lot of that work was centralized within the mayor's office. Alexandria Smith took the lead and essentially did a lot of the work around behavioral health coordination, as well as working with Behavioral Health Systems Baltimore and supporting paragraph 98. There are multiple reports. I want to say they're released almost monthly. We talk about this at the consent decree hearings that outlines all of our work. There is a regular coordination meeting and a behavioral health collaborative that brings all of the partners together. Again, it's very similar to the CVI ecosystem in space, where you have CVI infrastructure within the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, and then they work in partnership with community-based organizations. So again, there is a collaborative that's coordinating, that's working together, that's meeting regularly, that's working with community-based partners, and then we also are building our own behavioral health capacity within the health department to also support behavioral health efforts throughout the internal city government agencies. And this position is specific to paragraph 97, which Alexandria Smith, who was in the mayor's office, coordinated. And so, again, this is being responsive specifically to what was outlined in the consent decree.
Madam Solicitor.
Thank you, Council President. I echo everything that the CA says, and I really want to come in from the perspective of representing the city in the consent decree and understanding what paragraph 97 is and the importance of it. This position, and having sat in that seat, Stephen sits in it often now, where we have Judge Bradar, who is a consent decree judge, advocating all the time for having an internal person in the mayor's office to coordinate all of these efforts, because we see how important behavioral health is. So this is going to be looking at straddling multiple agencies, so between BPD, MOHS, fire with 911 diversion, behavioral health calls, and then also monitoring how well we're doing. So it's not just it's not just that we have a process, but we are being measured in terms of our progress. And I think that this position is integral to that, and the reason why has been so advocated for in the consent decree, in our hearings with the judge and DOJ and the monitoring team. In 2023, I know that we went through this whole paragraph 97 and trying to identify this, and that's why it's so important to have someone that's working on all different agencies, because as we all know, this just is not a BPD problem. This is not just a health problem. This hits multiple different agencies, and to combat this from all different angles, as the consent decree judge and monitoring team and DOJ sees, that we need to have a coordinated approach, and that is best served. And I also want to say that this should not live in the House of Health, because if you are monitoring the progress of someone, that agency shouldn't be monitoring themselves if they are part of the single agency. So it absolutely should be with the mayor's office, and we do miss Allie. So
We do miss Allie indeed. No, look, I appreciate that. I appreciate both comments. I cannot sit here and not acknowledge an entire committee of the whole hearing where community told us again and again and again there is a lack of clarity in this space. I do appreciate what this is seeking to do, what this position is seeking to add to the mix, and why it is critically important that we are staying aligned with the consent decree, particularly paragraph 97, which is, I think everyone would acknowledge, an important corrective for our city. I just want to be clear, when we create new positions within the administration, within any agency, even within the city council, that just want to understand the clear purpose. I think we are getting there. Understand that it is separate from the Division of Behavioral Health within the health department. What I am ultimately going to be looking for in partnership and in conversation with you is understanding the interconnectedness, understanding, again, where one starts, the other stops, and understanding how ultimately who is at the top to be fully accountable to the work that needs to be done in this space. Again, I am glad that we're creating this position and want to have real clarity in this entire space.
Yeah, we're happy to offer.
Madam City Administrator.
Sure. We're happy to offer some briefings and to share more about the work that has been happening in this space for a significant amount of time. I want to take an opportunity here to actually lean in on the work that is happening in the behavioral health space. And I want to start with an acknowledgement that we are far from perfect. I kept comparing us to what is happening in the CVI space, and we're far from perfect when it comes to community violence intervention and interruption. But having worked in multiple cities, what I can tell you is that there are other jurisdictions that look to the city of Baltimore because we are doing the work and have the pieces of the puzzle that other folks would dream to have. Thinking about our award-winning 911 diversion program and all the efforts that we are doing there. Now you have the 988 and the work that's happening there, and you have BC More that's being added to the space. And so what I think we have here is an opportunity. There are so many people in this city that care so deeply about behavioral health, and there is so much more that we need to do to better coordinate our response around behavioral health. But what we have are evidence-based strategies, and what we have are committed leaders in the space who are working together day in and day out to make sure that we are responding to our residents in a way that protects their dignity, especially when they are going through a mental health crisis. So I want to take the opportunity to commend all of our nonprofit partners, all of our community-based organizations, and all of our government leaders who are doing this very, very difficult work day in and day out, and to commit ourselves to continuously improving, which a part of this position is focused exactly on that, quality assurance, and continuous improvement. And so just want to thank you, Council President, for continuing to shine a light on this issue, but also want to acknowledge all of the incredible work that's happening and the pieces of the puzzle, and to just reinforce and recommit ourselves to doing even more to make sure that we have the best behavioral health system in the country.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and particularly the last sentiment. I think that Baltimore said this during the Health Commissioner's confirmation, said this during the Committee of the Whole hearing on this very topic. I think that Baltimore really does have some of the best public health infrastructure in the United States of America. We were first in the nation to do trauma-informed care. Several cities have now followed, Cincinnati and others. We were way ahead of the curve in terms of CVI and the very significant reductions we've seen in violence as a result. We have always been a leader going back years and even decades in public health. I think it is exactly that point of I want us to be best in the country at this because we have so much infrastructure and we have so many people, as the city administrator acknowledged, that are doing this work on a daily basis. We have so many hospitals, we have so many nonprofits, for-profits, folks who every single day, day in, day out, are committed to improving our behavioral health outcomes. I think it's also extremely incumbent on us to make sure the pieces are all fitting together, make sure the puzzle is complete, and that is going to continue to be my push. And I know the mayors and many other folks as well. And again, I do appreciate the good work that you've been doing. Thank you for joining this team. Thank you for leaving academic life behind for a minute and coming into government, which is a different thing, but it is really good to have your expertise, and I am very much looking forward to this position being created and continued conversations, hearings, briefings, all the different things to make sure we're getting there toward best in class. Comptroller Henry, did you want to jump in?
I do want to jump in, but I'm going to shift directions just into a little clarification. This position is listed here at $161,465. That's not salary. That's salary and OPCs?
Yes.
What's the projected salary?
I believe it's 125.
Yeah, okay. That was what I was thinking. Just, all right, thank you.
Noted. Other questions from the board? Hearing and seeing none. I would entertain a motion to approve this item.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of approving this item say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The item is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item is SB 2512910 for the request to approve an armed security guard service contract renewal with Urban Development Solutions, Inc. for armed security at certain city-owned locations for $5,500,000. On behalf of the Bureau of Procurement, we have Chief Procurement Officer Adam Manny. Mr. Manny, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Mr. President, Mr. Comptroller, Madam CA, honorable board members. We're here before you asking for the first renewal of two one-year renewals to urban development for armed security guards for an amount of $5,500,000 to move forward. These services are provided at several buildings and facilities across the city. As we move forward, they have been a good business partner with the city. After discussion with the agencies that are using these services, we have come before you to ask to move this forward, and then we will probably come back in a year's time, if approved, to do the final renewal. Then after that, we would go out for a new solicitation. So this would take us through the 26th, and then we would option the last renewal option, which would get us to 27, and between 26 and 27, a new solicitation would be issued for these services. I'm happy to answer any questions. I know I have members of the departments with me who can get into some more specifics if you have them.
Thank you, Mr. Manny. How did we consider the wages of the employees in this contract?
This is, again, we have the living wage, but these are at a much higher rate because these are armed security personnel. The wages for these individuals who are doing the service for the city, depending upon certain situations, varies anywhere between $30 an hour to $50 an hour. If it's a night, weekend, an emergency, it'll be at a higher rate. If it's a standard work day, it'll be at the lower rate.
And so I know there's a lot of conversation going on about best value versus lowest bid, but specifically when we're looking at someone like, apologies, I want to make sure I get the name right, Urban Development Solutions, are we factoring the way they're paying their workers as we're doing this kind of procurement?
We do not, sir. We have the rules and regulations set by the city when it comes to living wage and prevailing wage. Those are primarily. We don't look at benefit packages or the wages above that or below those for any of our business partners or contractors. It's a matter of logistics. It's also a matter of knowledge, skills, and abilities. I do not have the knowledge, and I don't think we have the staff where we could look at it and say, this is the proper thing across the nation for something of that sort. It's more of an HR function. This board and the city council has said that if you are doing business with the city and you meet these skill sets, you have to pay the prevailing wage, which is the minimum. It's a floor, not a ceiling. And if you are in the other labor categories, this is the floor for the living wage if you want to do business with the city. Those entities do supply that information to the Wage Commission, who does review it. They do have authority to issue citations and other things, but we do not, as a city, and I don't know of any public entity at this time, I could be mistaken, who actually goes into that level of detail when they're doing it.
Mr. Manny, could you remind me for the record, what is considered living wage here in Baltimore?
The living wage is a minimum floor that has to be paid on an hourly basis to what is considered unskilled workers. That's a classification, nothing against them. Please take mind of that. That says if you're doing business with the city and you have a class of workers that meet these items, you must pay them this minimum amount. The companies can pay them higher, but as a minimum, they must pay it. They also must submit their time and their payroll sheets to the Wage Commission as we move forward, and there are other information they have to submit to SMB&D to ensure that they're doing their part as we move forward.
No, understood and appreciated, but I'm asking, what is that living wage?
I don't know off the top of my head. I want to say it's $15 or maybe
Last time I thought it was 17.
17, it could be.
I might be wrong.
I don't know what it is off the top of my head.
Could somebody check on that? I think
We can
it's
find that.
actually important. Whether it's $15 or $17 an hour, just is that a living wage? I know this is not your. I'm asking a little outside of your area, but when I think about what it costs to live in the city of Baltimore, particularly if there's a family, if there's more folks, it seems very low. $21.15 is living wage. $21.15. Does that? It feels like a very low living wage.
Living in an urban environment, sir, is always going to be more than a rural. living in the city of Baltimore compared to living in, for example, the city of New York and Manhattan, it's two different items. I defer to the Wage Commission on that. They are the experts on where it is, but for that, we work specifically with Wage and the Wage Commission to ensure that it's enforced because they are the subject matter experts. The decision of if it's too high or too low, I'm an advocate. Of course, I would love to say pay more, but I'm not the elected officials. That's what this board is and the city council. And again, I'm not trying to pass the buck, but that's a determination that needs to be made by the elected officials because it becomes policy and then enacted into law. Once it's done, it's my responsibility to make sure that we are following that and our business partners are living up to it. And as we work with SMB&D and the Wage Commission to make sure that they're doing the right thing as directed by this board and the council.
Totally understand. I'm going to come back to that in a minute, but just to get a little more into the weeds on this contract, I've tried to understand and still don't have like total clarity. Where do we deploy armed security? Like, what are the specific sites
Right now,
around the city?
sir, Neiman Avenue, Montebello, the Park Terminal, Haven Street, Washington Boulevard, the Franklin Street Yard. I know it's used very heavily by the Department of Public Works, and I know the Department of General Services might also use them also. It's traditionally in areas where we've run into issues with items happening to our property where it needs just a little more that's going on.
Could you be just slightly more specific than that?
I would defer
So,
that to.
I'm sorry, I'm happy to provide.
Madam City Administrator.
I'm happy to provide some feedback, and then we also have our colleagues from DPW and DGS that can speak to specifics. But what I believe that there are 7 facilities that utilize this contract. The majority of those facilities are some of our solid waste yards or some of the yards that are within the Department of Public Works. But again, I believe the armed security are often used for overnight or late evening, and again, we've had issues at these areas prior to, but we can also have our partners at DPW to provide some specific details.
Good morning, Honorable Board, Madam CA, Mr. President, Mr. Comptroller, and the remainder of the board, Madam Clerk. We deploy our security resources depending on the posture that it calls for. To the CA's point, if we have overnight, if we have a large parcel of property to patrol, it's much safer for the security guard to have some form of firearm in order to protect themselves. They're typically on the perimeter of the properties or something like that. We try to keep unarmed security forward-facing, public-facing, because they're more typically going to be kind of a check-in and check-out of the property. It just needs to be documented, whether it be contractors, the public, or whoever it may be. That's how we figure out, and we're currently reviewing that posture again to see what makes sense for each of our locations.
Okay. Appreciated. Just like give me a little bit of an analysis of why we would use armed security versus a BPD. Is it because they're going to be there guarding that facility for the duration of a like day and day night? Is that like just want to understand where we?
Sure.
Yeah.
To answer your question, yes. We're going to typically deploy them where we have had either historical issues of like theft or trespassing or folks being threatened on that particular property or where they are. So that's typically how we will slice them up and figure out where we should have armed and where we can have unarmed.
So if there's been an actionable threat, if there's been like where we've seen a problem, we're going with.
Or if there's, say, a large parcel of property, like to patrol around on the overnight hours, it's much safer, again, for the guard to have a firearm.
Understood. Appreciate it. I want to go back to the question of the living wage. I actually don't think $21 for the city of Baltimore is accurate. I believe it's $15.38.
Actually, that was
45.
raised on
45.
July 1st to 45.
45.
7 whole cents. That's a great year last year.
I would just state for the record, and again, you are 100% right, Mr. Manny, it is not your job to determine what that calculation looks like. I actually think the 21 number may come from, I saw there's like an MIT calculator thing that's sort of supposed to be what a living wage would look like, indexed against a whole bunch of different factors. I would just state for the record, and I know it is not, this is armed security, so it is not relevant to this contract, but $15 in any amount of cents to me is not a wage that one could live on in the city of Baltimore. And it very much begs a question about us as a board, as the city council, as the administration, taking up this issue and really having a hard look, because that is a very, 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 very low wage, especially given that the state's minimum wage has now been raised to 15, are we at 15 yet? We're like close. Either way, my last question, and again, just want to reemphasize the point around that living wage is extremely low. My last question on this specific contract. So you mentioned that where we will deploy armed security folks has to do with specific threats that have been enumerated, or there's been some issue. Just again, trying to get a little more texture into when something like that happens. BPD obviously gets called, right? Then there's a 911 call, and then we determine, we go through an analysis and say, okay, this incident happened. It begs for a permanent armed security presence at this facility. Let's work with urban development or whichever other group and have folks there. Is that about right?
I will defer to the expert.
I don't know about expert, but anyway, yes, if there's any kind of actual crime that occurs, an assault, a threat, anything like that, BPD is always engaged. The armed security is only there for the immediate and to make sure our employees and the public are protected that are on that property at that time. Anything that goes into a legal situation, BPD will be called to respond.
How does the wages of BPD versus armed security compare?
I wish I could answer that question for you. I'm not sure of the hourly wage of a police officer. I do know what is on the contract that we have here, and I think Adam spoke to $20 to $50 or $30 to $50 an hour. But I could not speak to where that goes with BPD or how it lines up.
Okay. I will just note this is an area of interest to the Baltimore City Council, particularly how we're paying security officers, both from a fairness, equity, and worker, the need to support our workforce perspective, and also from a public safety perspective, as I think, Chekhov had this line in his play where if you got a gun, there is an expectation that at some point in the third or fourth act, it may go off. And so we are, it's high-risk work that folks are doing. Appreciate it. Other questions from the board? Mr. Comptroller?
Thank you, Mr. President. I wasn't expecting the Chekhov reference. I'm not sure this question is for DPW or procurement even, because I think it was DGS that heads up the internal work group that is supposed to be assessing agencies' requests for armed security, and whether the need is actually for armed versus unarmed security. And I know we had a very robust public conversation about this about 2 years ago, and DGS had said they were setting up this internal process. It occurs to me now that it was less clear from the outcome of that. Is that Burkay behind you? Okay, all right. I was like, because I was like, I thought I saw you. You were just blocked. Okay. I thought when we set this up, that's great. Adam, I want you to know all the agency heads are right behind you. At all times. I realized we set up, or you guys set up this, I thought, very good process to determine. What I'm now realizing was it was less clear that there was anything in the process to go back and regularly review existing contracts. And so I know the way you had it set up, anytime somebody new came in and said, hey, we need this, how do you, how does the process you have deal with sort of updating and like taking DPW's, DPW is taking for granted right now that it is better to have armed security patrolling a yard or a facility. And at some point, we set that up. But is there any way that we go back and periodically go, is it still worth it to be paying essentially twice as much to have armed security rather than unarmed security, given that I would hope that armed security is still relying on BPD for backup. I mean, it's not like they're urban development solutions. Like if they have some type of situation, they're not calling urban development solutions to send more cars from urban development solutions. They're going to rely on local law enforcement. So why would that be any different than hiring a private unarmed security to do the same thing?
First off, let me introduce myself. Berke Atilla, Director, Department of General Services. Mr. Comptroller, very packed questions, so I'm going to try to unpack them.
It'll take, I get it.
Yes.
I'll sit back.
First, yes, the committee has been established with partnership with BPD, not just DGS. We don't lead, but we are a co-owner, co-partner of this process. And yes, you're right, in its formation, the primary objective was to look at new contracts, and I think you're making a great point as to there's no reason why we can't retroactively look back for anything that is being renewed, and if still the initial reason that was pushed that to an armed contract still exists or not, and I think that's a good trigger. We could be number no pun intended. I think that we could set up working with the BOP and then the agencies that are using ahead of time when the renewals for RFP coming up, that could be added to our review. And I believe that we don't meet on regular basis. We only get activated when a contract comes up for a new one. So I think I'll take that to bank and we'll go revisit to improve that process. I think that's a good suggestion. When it comes to the analysis of the armed services contract for this established committee, it's not bleeding into its financial relevancy. I just want to be very clear. I don't think that we have, I mean, obviously we have the ability to be able to do the analysis, the bear and withhold, to see if it's cost effective or not. But if that's the case, we would like to enlist BBMR to help with us. And as a former BBMI employee and a CFO, I have an opinion about just like, I think that it will be short-sighted without having to do the analysis, but I'm giving you maybe another perspective of that it's just not, focus shouldn't be just the hourly wage, but it is all of the fringe arounds and the overtime and the unions and ability to scale up and down and using the police resources where it's most needed rather than tying up into. So the argument is beyond just the hourly rate, but hourly rate argument is a good one. But I would like to caution us that just like we shouldn't solely focus on that. If the board is needing to do an analysis, I would gladly be helping BBMR and everybody else to look into that. But the operational efficiency should be considered from the BPD's point of view. I hope that I was able to answer all your questions.
That was great. And if I can continue?
Yeah, Mr. Comptroller, please.
Okay, so I think that would be great. And for what it's worth, I'm not proposing that instead of moving forward with the item on today's agenda, what I'm just saying is, you know, the the Director of Procurement laid out, that this is the penultimate renewal of this contract, and there's still another year-long one that you expect to come to the board with in a year. But if we, at this point now, did some analysis of the individual uses of this contract, we have time, if we act now, we have time to have some, real careful, deliberative analysis of that and determine whether we still need to be using this much of that contract, or do we need more unarmed contractual resources before we come back next year and just go right on ahead with what we've been doing. I don't know that we need to go through this today because I'm sure nobody has this data on the top of their head, but I really think it would be helpful to have a conversation where we look at how often do the armed security officers who are patrolling in a vehicle get out of their cars, confront people, display their weapons to show that they're armed, and then the people run away and nothing bad happens. Because if the actual deterrent effect is they're driving around in a car, and that is what is actually preventing bad things happening from our facility, I'm not sure that paying them more so that they feel comfortable is sufficient. So I would really like to see more, demonstration that there have been cases where armed security needed to be armed to accomplish the stated goals, and that BPD backup was insufficient to help keep them safe.
Noted. And I believe the Commission's goals, when they're looking at whether a security should be armed or unarmed, includes this type of thinking. But again, just measuring the incidents may be, again, short-sighted because the deterrent cannot be measured by the things that have not happened. But
I would be happy to see measures of both occurrence
Agreed.
and individual impact on those instances.
And just for clarity, sorry to jump in, Director Attila, but just want to square a bit of a circle to the comptroller's line around it, what I believe you or Deputy had said earlier was that we try to keep the unarmed folks front-facing and that they're out there more. And so just want to understand the deterrence element if the folks who are like out there on the front line are generally unarmed.
Well, this is kind of the committee's work when it comes to analyzing these.
Sure.
And we in DGS, we bring the ops ability, what these facilities are for, where they are, and the experts on the table at the seat with us are BPD at the end of the day, putting their opinion to say whether the armed or unarmed would be more reasonable deployment for that set service. So we draw the line between, we know the facilities, we know those facilities for, what times they're being used, who comes in, who goes out, and that's why it's a commission, not just DGS or BPD, but our expertise ends with the facility's use and its purpose. BPD's expertise come in and advising the commission whether or not it should be there. So I don't want to go out of my soapbox and say something that it may not be representative, that I'm not an expert of.
No, and I appreciate that. I think what I'm trying to understand is, let's say I am seeking to rob or cause harm within a DPW facility. What I had heard previously was that at the folks who are going to be front-facing, who I'm probably going to see if I'm like casing the joint, are folks who are unarmed. What I'm hearing you say is that there's this deterrence element of having armed folks there. just trying to square those two things.
So I think what
Madam City Administrator?
Thank you so much. I think what Director Attila is saying is that he is the expert on facilities. He is the expert on the data on who comes into facilities and who exits facilities. I think this requires a much more in-depth, robust conversation with our public safety experts, and I don't want to continue to put Director Attila on the spot to be able to provide public safety expertise when he, of course, is the expertise on our facilities. As he mentioned, we have a committee of people with different and varying expertise that evaluates the need for these services. We are happy to, as the comptroller mentioned, we have about a year, where we can have this discussion and this dialogue internally before coming back and looking to decide whether or not we renew or extend this contract. And so what I would offer is that we can provide briefings and, have you all join some meetings to discuss the value of unarmed versus armed security prior to us bringing this contract back towards the board. But I do want to make sure that we're including our public safety experts and partners in this conversation beside DGS.
Much appreciated. Mr. Comptroller, I cut off your line of questioning. Were you?
I was still just trying to figure out if you were calling me a square or a circle, but I decided to let it go. No, I think the city administrator summed it up well. We've established what we need to do next. Now let's just do that next. Okay.
And I just want to note that I heard you about looking at current contracts on some sort of a frequency, not only focusing on the new ones. So I will bring that back to the commission/committee.
Yep.
Madam Minister?
And I do just want to note that Director Attila has a lot of skills. He has been an HR director, he has also been a CFO, and he's run general services. Public safety is one that maybe is up next.
No, not yet. Thank you, Madam CA.
Well, try not to tell Commissioner Worley.
I appreciate that. I did want to pull up the quote because I am at heart a liberal arts kid, and I took a class at Smith College, where your daughter goes, on modern short stories of Chekhov. It is, if in the first act you have hung a pistol on the wall, then in the following one it should be fired. Otherwise, don't put it there. Excited to continue this conversation. Hope that in any of these cases, one does not have to draw their pistol. It is good to be sussing out and appreciate the work of the committee and you and our public safety experts in trying to figure out when we need which. We'll return to this topic, not for you, but around our living wage and how we are paying folks up and down the chain. But do deeply appreciate the discussion. And we'll let the commissioner know you are coming for his job.
Thank you.
You got it.
Thank you very much.
He is on security, though, so be careful.
With that, any other questions? Good to go. All right. I will then entertain a motion to approve this item.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of approving this item say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The item is approved. The final item on the non-routine agenda is SB 2312472 for the approval of an unauthorized procurement with Dredge Boats LLC for the amount of $198,600 on behalf of the Bureau of Procurement. We still seem to have Mr. Manny, although I also see Ms. Rochelle Celestine as well from DGS. Mr. Manny, you want to kick us off? And I see Mr. Kendall Abu Hakim as well.
Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Comptroller, Madam CA, honorable board members, Adam Manning, your Chief Procurement Officer. I'm going to give you the brief overview, then I will turn it over to the subject matter experts.
Great.
This board approved PO 003079. This is for the replacement of the 3 trash skimmer boats and the conveyors that were going forward. As those boats and the conveyors and were going through an uplifting process, additional work was determined to be needed. And what happened is the work was done and approved, but the putting the cart before the horse per se. What didn't happen in the breakdown in the process was the change order to the purchase order should have been issued for these additional funds, and because of the dollar value, that should have come back before this board. And that's where we have the unauthorized procurement. Where we're standing before you today is asking you permission to pay this outstanding amount as we move forward. And if you have additional questions on the skimmers, the conveyors, what they do, and how this happened, we do have the experts from DGS behind, but we're asking the permission to just pay this outstanding balance.
Thank you for that. Why don't we just go ahead and do that? Either DPW or DGS, if you could talk about what these boats do.
Good morning, Comptroller, President, Madam CA, board members.
Kendall, if you could just, there you go.
Kendall Abu Hakim, representing DPW. Do want to acknowledge that we do in fact use the dredge boats first. These are part of our marine operations that patrol our city shoreline from Canton over to Key Highway. If there are any additional details or questions you may have regarding our operations, I'd be glad to answer those, but this is a 7-day-a-week operation. Regarding this item specifically, DGS will be speaking to the details.
And, sorry, just so I understand it, are these different from the dredge boats that you just mentioned? Or these are the dredge boats?
These are the dredge boats.
Okay, these are the dredge boats?
Yes.
Got it. All right.
If I may add clarification on that, when we say dredge boats,
Mr.
dredge boat
Allen?
is actually Alan Robinson, Deputy Director for Public Works. The dredge boat is the actual company who does the work. What we're using are skimmer boats. They're doing the work on the skimmer boats. So just wanted to make sure that there was a distinction there, so we didn't think about dredging versus cleaning of the harbor. So they skim the trash from the harbor from all of our outfalls along the route that our bureau head, Mr. Abdul Hakim, has mentioned. So just wanted to make sure that there was a distinction there for that purpose. We're also going to talk about the pier conveyors, and I believe DGS is going to speak kind of to what this overall contract was. So it wasn't just for the skimmer boats, but it was also for the pier conveyors that actually remove the trash from the skimmers up into a roll-off dumpster that is then hauled off. And this is a whole system that is required in order for us to be able to do this job 7 days a week, as Mr. Hakim has said.
Okay. Much appreciated. So we are talking about a company named Dredge Boats.
Yes, sir.
That does skimmer boat works.
That has done skimmer boat work for us on this, but they do other types of boats, but for us particularly, whereas for the skimmer boats.
Excellent. Can you define what a skimmer boat is?
Yes, sir.
Versus a dredge boat, or is a skimmer boat a dredge?
Two different things.
Okay.
So when we're talking about skimmer, we're actually talking about skimming the top of the waterfalls, and we're removing all the debris that is floating on top that you would see. And we're taking that out of the waterways and cleaning that up.
It's the street sweeper of the harbor.
It is the street sweeper of the harbor. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. When we're talking about dredging, we're
Similar to a Mr. What's
the
his
trash
face?
wheels.
Yeah, trash
Yeah,
wheels.
so when you see the trash wheels, those are skimming. Those are taking the things that are floating on the top, putting them on a conveyor belt, and rolling those into a dumpster to be hauled off.
But
Mr. Comptroller.
Mr. Trash Wheel holds still,
Yes.
and water flows through Mr. Trash Wheel. The
Okay.
skimmer boats, they move across the
What
water.
about Ms. Trash Wheel?
She holds still too, I believe. Yeah, all the ones that sit on the outflows, they just catch stuff that the water is flowing downstream into the harbor. But I say this because, and I know I say a lot of things that sound funny, but it really is kind of a pleasant sight to just be sitting there on one of the benches by the harbor and watch the skimmer boat come by and clean up little stuff that's in the harbor flowing. Like it's a nicer experience than sitting on a bench and having the big trucks driving by doing the same thing of cleaning up the trash in the gutter. But the skimmer boats do it quieter and a little more aesthetically, in a more aesthetically pleasing fashion. But it's also doing the very important job of cleaning our water for environmental purposes. So, yeah.
Understood.
And so the differentiation between the dredge boats remove sediment underneath the surface of the water. So they're actually focusing on the floor of the harbor or whatever surface that they're looking for. So one of the things we're talking about dredging are some of our waterways. We're actually removing the additional sediment under to actually increase the depth available. So two different functions of those types of boats.
Understood. Appreciate it. This feels like a PBS, more you know, Reading Rainbow kind of episode. I really appreciate that explanation. So above and below.
Yes, sir.
Got it. Ma'am.
Good morning, Madam CA, Mr. President, Mr. Comptroller, and other honorable members of the board.
If you
A
could
lot of my comments.
Hold the mic a little
sure.
bit closer. Perfect.
A lot of my comments were actually going to echo what has already been said by Director Manny and Director Kendall. But essentially, with regard to the pier conveyor belts, when the boats were initially delivered, they were done at 30 feet to transfer the trash from the skimmer boat onto the area where the roll-offs exist. They needed to be extended to 40 feet. And then on top of that, there were also modifications requested to the skimmer boat itself, including moving doors, raising the cab, things like that. And that's what's contributed to the increased amount. Are there any questions regarding those?
Mr. Comptroller?
So this is me practicing my reflective listening. We had a contract to buy the boats
Boats and pier conveyors.
and the pier conveyors, but what did the contract not include?
The contract did not include modifications, so it specified that they were going to do pier conveyors up to 30 feet, and the boats were going to be designed a certain way.
But then we needed a different size conveyor belt.
Correct.
And we got it, but because it's not specified in the contract, that's why you're coming to us.
Correct.
And we're just approving.
Well, they haven't been delivered yet. The approval of this
'cause we haven't paid them
unauthorized
yet.
procurement will allow for the final
Oh,
delivery.
okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yep. And you mentioned there's different doors.
Correct. When there were meetings held with the operators of the boats, they had requested just minor changes to the cab, but those had an additional cost to make those changes.
Got it. Understood. Appreciate it. Other questions? All right, rock and roll. Is there a motion to approve this item?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of approving this item, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The item is approved. As there is no more further business before the board, we will now adjourn this meeting. The next regular meeting of the Board of Estimates will occur on Wednesday, October 1st, 2025 at 9 a.m. I thank everyone for participating and tuning in.
If we're ready to get started. We're not ready to get started? We are ready to get started. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Board of Estimates bid opening for September 17th, 2025. Thanks to all of our agency colleagues who joined us today to carry their bids back to their offices. We appreciate that. We have no addenda to announce today at the top of this opening, but we do have 5 bids that we are opening today. And up first, we have Recreation and Parks. This is RP 24810, Northwest Park, Upper Park Improvements. And Casey, I believe this has a bid bond.
Yes.
And the affidavits were confirmed. And it looks like 2 bidders.
It looks like 2 bidders. I think you're gonna have to add a column for bid bond.
Oh, yeah, I don't see a column.
Yeah, we have 2 bidders, and the first up is from Allied Contractors
Okay.
Incorporated. I'm gonna hand you the duplicate.
Thank you.
We have 1 duplicate. We have 1 original. I have it in front of me. Once again for RP 24810. Allied Contractors.
Okay.
And the, you should be looking at page 49R.
Yep.
The total bid amount for this is $1,250,000.00. And
That number was 1,250,000.000.00.
okay, and I see the bid bond on page 97.
Yep, and I have a copy. Okay, that bidder was Allied Contractors, Inc. for $1,250,000.00. Thanks, Tawanda. And up next,
I think this is just a duplicate. I think this is part of that. The next bid is from P. Flanagan Sons Incorporated.
Thank you.
I handed you the duplicate. I have the original in front of me. This is for RP 24810 Northwest Park, Upper Park Improvements.
Yep.
The total, as read from page 49R, is $1,047,040.00.
Okay. That was 1,047,040.00.
That's correct. And we have a signed bid bond on page 96 and 97.
Yep. So that bidder was P. Flanagan and Sons Incorporated for $1,047,040.00. And that was our final of two bidders for RP 24810 Northwest Park, Upper Park Improvements. Great. Up next is Department of General Services. This is Project 371. And this is for the Southern Police District interior renovations.
Yes.
Does that match what you have in front of you, Casey?
Yeah, PRJ 000371
I think this is going to have a bond, so I am
Yes.
adding a column for that.
That's great.
Right.
There are 1, 2, 3, 5 bidders in front of me.
And these are all originals and a copy, right? 'Cause of
Yes,
the
they should be
capitals.
all
Okay.
an original, one dupe. Okay, so I'm gonna hand you the dupe. The first one is, the first one is from Banneker Ventures LLC. Okay, the bid amount for, from Banneker Ventures LLC for PRJ 000371. The total is $3,910,857.
That number was 3,910,857.00.
Yep, and that total is on page 81, so I should have said that.
And
then
we
the
have a
bid,
bond.
the bid bond is found on page 129 and 130, and I can see that signed.
Okay, that bidder was Banneker Ventures LLC for $3,910,857.00. Thanks.
Okay.
And General Mechanical, this is the one that looks like it has a different name on the inside,
Yeah.
so it might be a DBA.
Yeah, let's see. So I'm going to give you, I have marked Towson Mechanical Incorporated. I'll hand you the duplicate. Yep, and inside the original, it also says Towson Mechanical Incorporated. The total bid amount.
Hold on a second, let me type in Towson Mechanical here. Okay.
The total bid amount is $2,715,000.00.
Okay, that number was 2,715,000.00.
Correct. And I see that there's a signed bid bond on page 129
see
and
a
130.
Okay. Okay, that bidder was General Mechanical Contractors, slash doing business as Towson Mechanical, Inc. And that bid amount was $2,715,000.00. And I'm sorry, again, that was Towson Mechanical, Inc. for $2,715,000. Thanks, Tawanda. And up next?
Up next is It's MB page, so we can't read off of that, so I can find it. Wait a minute. Okay. It's the same page on each of them, page 81. Okay, so I have the original for Janus Contractors Incorporated right here.
And do you have a due?
That is a great question. I do not have a copy marked duplicate.
Do you have 2 copies?
I have, it's not, it looks like it's some of what is included in a duplicate copy, but it's not marked duplicate, and it doesn't appear to have all the pages of the original bid. Let me just see if it's just out of order. Yeah, it looks mostly like a part A and part B, and it doesn't have
So
doesn't have all the contract
we have a clearly
details.
marked original and one less clearly marked, some duplicate pages.
Partial?
Okay. We'll probably make a note that this will get referred for review.
Yeah. Cool. So
hang on just 1 second, let me.
Okay.
Okay, sorry.
All right, so on page 81, I don't think that's a page 81, but you can check. I have the total.
Yeah.
Let me know when you're ready.
Okay, This. Oh, look, it's backwards. I don't know what's happening here.
Oh, okay.
Do you see that?
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure why these are clipped like this. This is, I'm still gonna refer because it's like weirdly out of sequence, but there is.
Okay.
I'm gonna refer to this as a disorganized duplicate.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. Because there's extra pages that I don't know what to do with. But one of those extras is a bond.
Okay, cool.
Do you see a bond?
Wait, yeah, let me read the title first. The
Okay.
total amount. Page 81, the total states $3,292,600.00.
Okay, that number was 3,292,600.00.
Correct. And then, all right, so I
So
do
I
not
have-
have a signed bond in the original. Do you have the signed bond in the duplicate?
I do have a signed
Interesting.
bond, I think. Hold on, let me double check myself. Yes, there is a signed and stamped bond here.
This shouldn't be marked. This shouldn't be marked if it's not signed. Okay, then
So-
together we have one. We will refer this
Yeah.
to our friends in the law
And
department.
I have a second. I think that somehow this just
Oh,
is
okay.
discombobulated. There are 2 signed bonds here, they're just not attached to the right things.
Okay.
Yeah, there's 2 Part Bs, there's 2 bid bonds, and there's one thing marked duplicate. Yeah. We'll let Lal give that a read. All the pieces are here, they're just not assembled as required. So that was Janus Contractors, Inc. for $3,292,000.00, and this is as it was, correct? Here, I'm gonna return it to its original, which was actually like this, which is why we were a little confused. So, there you go. So again, that bidder was Janus Contractors, Inc., and the number was $3,292,600.00, and that bid will be referred to the Law Department for review prior to the agency. And up next,
The next bid is from Triunfo Builders Incorporated. I'm gonna hand you the duplicate.
thank you.
And,
Was this in like this?
yeah. Okay.
This is pieces also.
The total amount I can read to you from page 81 is $3,723,000. someone's phone going off?
I don't know where that's coming from, but it does sound like a phone. That number was 3,723,000.00.
That's correct.
And we have one original, and I have pieces of a duplicate again.
Okay. Yeah. Why is this smart?
What's going on here, DGS?
Why is this smart?
This is just a little bit out of sequence, so we're going to refer this one to law also, but I have a signed bid bond here. Do you have a?
I have in front of me a signed bid bond
Okay, so I have one in this
on page 129, 130.
stack that says duplicate, but with a few loose pieces. So, there we go. Did I have a clip? Was that clipped?
Nope, it was loose.
Okay. Maybe let's clip that for safekeeping the way it was received, and I'm going to repeat that number. Sorry, folks, when we have stray pieces of paper, we try to be very careful. That bidder, again, was Triunfo Builders Incorporated for $3,723,000.00.
Cool.
And
All right.
up next,
Our last bidder is from WM Slosher Company Incorporated. Can I hand you a duplicate?
thank you.
I'm gonna read the total off of page 81.
Got it.
$4,122,000.00.
That number was 4,122,000.00.
That's correct.
Okay. And we have a duplicate and one copy. And do you see a bond?
Why is this marked?
Oh, yeah, this is that's the minority page.
And the bid bond is,
I have it on 130.
yeah, it's 129 and 130. Let me just,
Okay.
it's in a protective sheet, which
Oh,
probably is great. I just can't
it's
see the back.
extra sealed.
Yep, and it's
Great.
signed.
Okay, so that bidder was WM Schlosser Company, Inc. for $4,122,000. And I believe, thanks to Wanda, that's the last of 5 bidders
Correct.
for PRJ 000371 Southern Police District Interior Renovations. Up next, we have RFQ 000739 City Building LED Lighting Installation. And it looks like we have potentially 2 bidders.
Yep, it looks like we have 2 bidders. Okay. Our first bidder. We have 2 bidders. Apologies. Our first bidder is CS Coida. Coida. I have 1 original. And I have 2 duplicates. I have a flash drive as well.
Okay.
This should be on here.
And does this one have a total? Or is this potentially itemized?
Let's see what's inside.
It'll be a surprise. Wait, someone from the audience is giving me a clue. All right. Thank you,
We love
procurement
our audience
number.
participation. All right. Oh, yep, I have a total. Cool.
Oh, but it is supposed to be itemized. Should we not read the total? Okay, because for folks off camera, our agencies who issue all of these bids are usually with us in the audience so that we can ask questions, and they do want us to read this total.
Cool. The total bid amount is 309. Sorry, the number is smaller than last ones. I forget how to pronounce them.
Okay.
309,000.
Okay, that number again was 309,000.00, and that was CS Coida as the bidder, $309,000.
That's correct. And I number these. Our capital agencies, those bidders write out their
Yeah, they do.
large numbers. So sometimes
Their
the
bid
civil
formatting
servant
is
forgets how to
standardized.
say numbers when they're not written out for her. It's a flaw. We're working on it. A performance plan. EW Pros LLC is our second bidder.
Yeah.
I have one original, I have one flash drive, and I have 2 duplicates.
Oh, 2 duplicates.
I'll hand you
Oops,
one of the
sorry.
dupes.
I hit the wrong button with my finger. Okay. 1 flash drive, 1 original, and 2 dupes.
Yep.
And I have
And the first,
the duplicate. Which dish?
okay, I said it was from EW Pros. And total bid price, $245,000.
That number was 245,000.00.
That's correct.
My formatting stopped working in that block, so you guys, you'll need to do some edits. EW Pros LLC was that bidder for $245,000. This is gonna bother me, my OCD. I'm gonna try to fix this. I'm not gonna mess up the other page, because you put formatting in the boxes, right? Or can I reformat these?
Do whatever you want.
Okay, I'm gonna try.
You're the clerk, you can do whatever you want.
The clerk has OCD and really wants to fix this.
That's what the code says.
That's what the code says.
Once again, nothing we say during these sessions is binding to the city. We just like to have fun for frequent flyers watching at home.
Yeah. So there that is, and that was our last of 2 bidders. Thank you for that disclaimer, Casey. That was our final of 2 bidders for RFQ 739, City Building LED Lighting Installation. Up next for Bureau of Procurement is RFQ 742, Unclean Brass Water Meter Disposal.
Tragically, no
Like that
bids have been
title.
received.
No, really? Okay. Are we positive? I'm looking at my procurement folks. We definitely, we didn't do an addenda on that. We should have received today. Okay. We like to double check that because sometimes maybe we missed an addenda, but we did not. So again, folks, for folks keeping track, that was RFQ 742, Unclean Brass Water Meter Disposal. And we did not receive any bids for this request. Up next, in our final bid is RFQ 449, Delivery and Supply of Steel Sub-Base for Light Poles.
Yep, and we have 1 bidder. Let's just see. I'm reviewing to see if they're marked original duplicate. Okay, this is weird. I have 2 copies, I think I have 2 copies of the bids, of the bid.
Do you have an
Neither, neither are marked original nor duplicate. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just gonna mark these as not identified and we'll refer it to the law department.
I will read the basis, but yes, refer
Do
to
we
law.
have a flash drive?
And no flash drive.
Okay. And so I'm gonna say we have 2 duplicates and let them suss out what the original
Yeah.
is. Okay, so because we don't have more than 2, right? Just 2.
I think it's just 2.
Not clearly labeled. Okay. Okay. Bid amount?
Bid
And this
amount.
is the total?
Total.
Okay.
Bid is $49,350. 0 cents.
Okay, that number was 49,350.00.
That's correct.
Okay, that bidder was MVA Power Inc. for $49,350. And this one will be referred to the law department just to verify the original versus duplicate issue. And that is our final of 5 bids for today. And we will be reconvening to open bids again on Wednesday, October 1st, 2025 at 12 noon as always. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and thank you, TV 25.